There's going to be a message that's going to pop up and just click continue. All right, we are ready to go. Jason, if you're ready.
I am ready, Daisy. Thank you. I will go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see that? Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes.
Oh, can't see anybody. Can I get a, if y'all can see that, if you could throw a icon in there, that'd be good. Perfect. Thank you so much, Daisy. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Rocking the Video Interview. I'm Jason Hopper. I'm one of the career coaches here at Jewish Family Service. I created this presentation originally because I had a client tell me, Jason, I don't think I'm very good at video interviewing. And I said, you're not. Nobody is. You're not good at video interviewing. The interviewer's not good at video interviewing. Nobody's good at video interviewing. It's just not a skill that comes naturally to us. But I do know this. Video interviewing is not going away, not anytime soon. In fact, they did a poll and found out last year that there was a 67% spike in video interviews. And of those employers that have participated, 86% said that they made hires just based off of the video interview alone. So I can tell you just from those numbers, it's not going to go away anytime soon. I know, like, really great things are happening. People are getting vaccinated. Things are opening up, right? But even after the pandemic ends, we're still going to be doing video interviews, guys. It's just not going to go away. It just isn't. So I created this presentation for best tips and practices so that you can be successful in your next video interview. Things we're going to talk about today include technology, attire, setting, body language, dialogue, and closing. First thing that you need to know is that video platforms, they take up a lot of bandwidth. Now, bandwidth is like the capacity for you to transmit data, okay? You want as much of that bandwidth as possible going towards your video call. So I would suggest that you log out of all internet things except for obviously the platform you're on. Also too, if you have other people in your house, if it's possible for them to log off of internet things as well, you want as much of that bandwidth as possible going towards your video interview. I would test the technology at least the day before. Make sure that you download it and that you get in there and familiarize yourself with it. All video platforms are slightly different. Like Zoom is different from Skype, it's different from WebEx. Just don't assume that because you're killing it on Zoom that you're going to be a master at WebEx. That's not necessarily the case. So make sure that you are familiar with the platform before you take that call. I would make sure that you situate your laptop at eye level. Ideally, what they should be seeing of you is what you could see of me, which is about mid-chest and up. They don't need to see any more than that. I do recommend that you use a laptop. Couple of reasons. If you are using a cell phone, and don't fret, like if that's the only way you can take the call, that's okay. We're going to go over some tips on that. But if your cell phone is all that you can take, is all that you can use, make sure that it's anchored, okay? If you're holding it, well, your arm is going to get rather tired. Also, you're not going to get the correct angle. So I would suggest you take your cell phone, make sure that it is secure, right? The last thing you want is for that thing to go boop and fall over while you're in the middle of talking. So make sure it's secure and arms length away. Now, whether you're on your cell phone or your laptop, I always suggest that the device is arm's length away. Here's the reason. If you can see me way back here, well, I'm far away from you, and I'm probably a little bit harder to hear. If I'm way up here up close, well, now I'm just in your face. So your device should always be arm's length away. You want to make sure you have nice lighting. Okay. Ideally, you want to be lit from the front rather than the back. If you are lit from the back, you're going to look like a shadowy figure, like you're in witness protection about to give FBI testimony. Okay. You always want to be lit from the front. If, or ideally, and I get that it might not be possible because some people are unemployed and it's just not in the budget. But if it's possible, I would recommend getting one of those fluorescent ring lamps that you could set up in front of you. Okay. If that's not possible, a small lamp with a soft white light bulb will work just as well. Sometimes we got to adjust. I'm working from home. My home office is actually in the dining room. So I'm lit from above, but I also have the blinds open over here to get some of that natural light coming in so that you guys can see me. There's not a lot of shadows on my face. You can see me pretty clear. You want to make sure that your device is charged up. The last thing that you want to happen is you be in the middle of talking and it just dies and the screen goes dead. While that may convey a little bit of mystery, being on an interview and the thing dying is not where you want to be mysterious, trust me. Now, this is the part where I like to talk about technology, because as humans, we love our technology. We do. But sometimes technology will fail us. That happens. This actually happened to a client of mine. She called me after the video interview. She was almost in tears. What had happened was she had a video call. She had a friend who was in IT come over and they got the platform downloaded. They got the camera set up. They got the light. I mean, they got everything sorted out. And then the morning of the interview, she couldn't get the camera to connect. Employers are going to realize, guys, that these things are going to happen sometimes. If something like that, like what I just described, happened to my client, if something like that happens to you, here's what I want you to do. Take a deep breath and figure out what the backup plan is, okay? If it is, and oftentimes too, like if my internet just died suddenly or I froze and got kicked off the call for a second, like most platforms are smart enough to know, oh, this just happened and it will work on reconnecting you fairly quickly, okay? If that's not the case and there was a more serious situation, like you know, your device died or something, figure out what the next step is going to be. Whether it is you have it downloaded on your phone, or you can call in, or whatever. But take a deep breath and figure out what the next plan is. What's Plan B? I say that because the last thing I want for anybody to happen is go throw up your arms and go, well, that's done. I'm not getting the job. No. They called you for a reason. They're interested in talking to you. So if something happens where you have that situation where technology has, unfortunately at this point, failed you, take a deep breath, don't panic, and figure out what the next thing is and get back on the call. By the way, just to let you know, my client, where that happened to, when she called me in tears, what happened was they ended up doing just a phone call and she moved on to the next round of interviews. So don't panic. Things will fail you. They will. Just you have a backup plan and figure it out. Attire. Wear pants. No, seriously. Make sure you have pants on. Guys, let's make no mistake, okay? Job search is a mental game. And I would suggest to everybody that you dress like you would as if you were going out into the world to do an in-person interview, okay? And I mean head to toe. I do a lot of networking things, and I have heard tale of interviewers asking job seekers to stand up and take 2 steps back so they can see what they're wearing. You don't want to be caught in your pajama pants, all right? So make sure head to toe that you're dressed like you would as if you were going out for an in-person interview. Also, too, again, mindset. It's going to put you in that right mindset that that you're on a video interview call. I would choose colors that translate well on video. Blacks and whites can wash you out. Blues, you see I got my nice blue shirt on here today. Blues pretty much translate well with any skin tone. Also, too, I would avoid stripes if possible. Just as you're kind of moving, and you see I'm kind of talking, I'm not real still, and my body's kind of moving. Now I'm just kind of dancing. Stripes, they tend to kind of blur and have a kind of a jagging effect, and that can be distracted to the interview. So no stripes, solids preferably if possible, and blue. Setting. Your background should be fairly plain and or neutral. It is okay to have a little bit of flair. If you can see behind me here, I've got a seahorse picture, a plant, and a vase. But the wall itself is just gray, right? By the way, except for the seahorse picture, the other two things are staged. I put those there when I started doing a lot more video conferencing calls. Just something there to look at. Things not to do with your background. Don't have your background in front of a window. Okay. First off, it's a lighting issue. We already talked about that. Second, you never know what's going to go on back behind you behind the window, right? In fact, a bulldozer just pulled up right outside my window. Like, I'm trying real hard not to look at it. It's distracting. I don't know what's going on out there. You don't want to be in front of the window like that because the interviewer sees what's going on. It's distracting. Okay. Other things not to do, I don't recommend that you use a virtual background. Yeah, it's super cool that you're taking that call from Paris, but unless you have an actual green screen behind you, virtual backgrounds tend to bleed. Like I might be talking to you and all of a sudden you see my hand just disappear. I was at a networking event a few weeks ago, and the speaker had a virtual background, and his eyes disappeared. He looked like a space alien. And last time I checked, employers weren't hiring space aliens. So no virtual backgrounds. Lock up the kids and the dogs. Just kidding. Don't lock up your kids, but definitely lock up any pets that might have 4 legs or can fly. The last thing that you want to happen is for Amazon to drop a package at your door, say, and now your dog goes crazy and starts barking. Because you will have to address that. And now you're like, pork chop, nope, come here, pork chop's my dog. Make sure, I was just joking. I was joking about locking up your kids, but make sure that if you have other people in your house that they are aware that you're on a video interview call. Make sure they're self-sustaining for at least an hour. This actually happened to a client of mine. Now she let everybody know. She told everybody in the house that she was going to be on a video interview. And yet still her teenage son walked across camera wearing nothing but his boxers. Well, at least she was a memorable candidate. Body language. Sit up straight. Sitting up straight shows that you're paying attention. Also kind of leaning in every now and then shows that you are still paying attention. If you are slumped down like this, like, can you see me? Can you see? I'm just ahead. Talking to you. Well, last time I checked, employers were hiring people with full bodies. You don't see many heads rolling down the hall to the copy room, I don't think. Also, too, if you're in a chair that swivels, try not to do this. It's not only distracting, but it just looks like you're not even paying attention. You're just kind of swiveling around. Now, when you go and interview, they say that you want to have good eye contact, right? Well, there's nobody there for you to really talk to. So, like, where are you supposed to be looking? It's definitely not over here at you talking. So where do you look? Well, you want to look at the camera. You want to look directly at the camera. That's where you need to focus your attention is to the camera. One suggestion that I have that I really, really like, it was from our lead, Mitch. He suggested that you get a little Lego figure and tape it right above your camera. Brilliant idea. Minifigs are very light, right? So they're not going to fall over or, anything on the camera. And it's somebody for you to talk to. I mean, another trick that you could do is, you could get like a little Post-it note and draw a little smiley face on it or something to direct, your attention to while you're doing the talking. You always want to be your best and true self. That being said, if you are like me, who talks a lot with his hands, Try to limit that a little bit. Reason being is you see, like, if I'm doing this, not always it kind of wavy, but it's also just distracting. I was on a webinar just yesterday, and the presenter, he had so many hand movements, like he looked like the Tasmanian devil from the old Bugs Bunny cartoons. I swear, it was just that crazy. The only time you're going to need a lot of hand movements is if you're interviewing for the position for the person that's at the end of the runways directing planes, with the cone lights, kind of those guys. Otherwise, try and limit that. Body language. Oh, no, we did body language, didn't we? Here we go. Dialogue. Project your voice. You want to make sure that the microphone is picking up your voice fairly well, okay? If you keep seeing the interviewer do this, which is kind of the international gesture for, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, you probably want to ratchet that volume up just a little bit. It's also a good idea to take strategic pauses when you speak. There's actually a little bit of a lag in when I say something real time and it translates over to you on video. If you've ever watched the news, you've seen this, right? The anchor's like, and now we're going to go live to the scene of the massacre with Chip. Are you there, Chip? And Chip's like this. I'm here, Chet. And then he starts talking. Same thing. Same thing. Also, taking those strategic pauses will keep you from talking over the interviewer, okay? If you're talking over the interviewer is going to think that you're actually not listening to what it is they're saying. And also, too, now you're in this situation. Oh, no, you go. No, you go. No, you. And you're just now wasting valuable interview time because these things will be, timed, right? Especially, too, because you guys have a virtual networking event coming up, like a virtual job fair is coming up, right? Like those meetings, like you go to those breakout rooms, it's going to be a timed thing, and you want to get as much information to them as possible. And so you definitely don't. That's definitely a time you want to take your strategic pauses so that you're not talking over anybody. Closings. So they will ask, as your interview kind of starts to wind down, they will ask if you have any kind of questions for them. Okay. I'm going to say this. Here's a question that you may want to ask before anything else happens in the interview. Okay. And that question is going to go like this. So, what was it that you saw on my resume that prompted you to give me a call? Then, once they answer that question, you can now align all of your answers to that first question. They called you because they saw something on your resume that was interesting to them. And that sparked the conversation. Now, that means that they already are interested. You could just ask, what was that thing that made you interested? And now you can align all your answers to how they respond. You're just building off of what it is they originally liked about you to begin with. Hopefully, your interview will be conversational, meaning you'll be able to ask questions throughout the entire interview. That's always preferred. But I would suggest that you keep one question in your back pocket. Just keep at least one in your back pocket, because as things are winding down, they will say, do you have any other questions? And you don't want to get stuck having asked all your questions. You don't want to get stuck going, no, you covered everything. No, they didn't. They are expecting you to ask a question at this point. Okay. Not sure what to ask? I'll give you some examples. What top 3 skills does a person need to be successful in this position? It's pretty good. Here's one that I like that the reason I like it is because it makes the interviewer think. You can always ask, besides the people, what do you like best about working here? I mean, they have to say something nice, right? Like what are they going to say? Like, don't get hired on here. It's terrible. I'm looking to get out myself. Do you have any leads? No, they've got to say something nice about the company. Here's a question that I like, and the reason is because it forces the interviewer to mentally put you in the position. You can ask, in a perfect world, if I was to get this position, what can I do to make your job easier? It's pretty good. Here's a question you can ask, and it's kind of bold, but you can ask it. You can ask, is there any additional information that I can provide to you today that makes your decision in hiring me easier? That's bold. That's a bold question, but you can ask it. You got to close. Guys, I'm going to tell you, I used to be a recruiter. I was a recruiter for 14 years before I became a coach. And I will tell you this, the people that didn't get hired were the people that didn't let me know they wanted to work there, right? Your closing could be something as simple as this. Hey, you know what? I'm really interested in the position. I liked what I've heard here today. What's the next step in this process? That's the easiest close. Now, you want to go a little bit deeper, you could say something more like, hey, you know what? I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I think I would be an essential part of your team and can help you guys move to the next level based on the experience that I have. And you reiterate what that experience was. That's a little more like, so, some people get like, I don't really know. Because basically you're asking for the job, and a lot of people they're not comfortable asking for the job, but you have to close. You absolutely have to, or you're not going to get the position. And if they tell you, what the next step is, if you go for the easy close, right, and ask what the next step is, if they tell you beforehand and they go, hey, we think that you're great, but you still need to have a conversation with Miss Edlocka, then your closing will go, I agree. I think this would be mutually beneficial for both of us. When is Miss Edlocka going to be available? I'll make sure I'm available to her, right? Follow up. Guys, you got to follow up. I will never, ever forget. I had a young lady come see me once. She was so excited. She literally ran into my office and she said, Jason, I got a job. I said, that's great. She said, yeah, me and the manager, we just kind of clicked, and it turns out we have the same kind of dog, and we talked about going to the dog park together. I said, that's great. When was your interview? She said 3 weeks ago. I said, you didn't get the job. She was kind of sad about that for a minute. The fact that she never followed up. Guys, unless the employer gives you a timeline, okay? And what I mean by that is this. If they say, oh, hey, Daisy, don't even expect to hear from us for at least 2 weeks. We have a lot of candidates. Okay, you've got you now know the timeline. If they don't give you a timeline, and now it's been 1 business week since the time of your interview and you have not heard anything from them, pick up the phone and call. Can't get them on the phone? Leave a quick voicemail. Hey, it's Jason Hopper. We met last week for that career coach position. Just want to follow up and see if I'm still a candidate, because I still do want to work for you. Then I would turn around and follow that up with an email. Email is always faster. Let me tell you, recruiters, our jobs, they move very, very quickly. If I don't have a whole lot of information for you, and it's just something like, no, we haven't made a decision yet. Oh, we're still interviewing. Yes, you're still a candidate. Like, if I pick up the phone and call you, I'm at least in a 10 to 12 minute conversation, whereas I can email you back like in 2 minutes, right? So email is always faster, and I always recommend to clients that you call first, always call first, because you do want that personal touch. I get it. You can't get people on the phone oftentimes. I understand. That's why email comes second, and email them after that. And then I'm going to say this. If you still haven't heard anything and another business week has gone by, repeat the process. Pick up the phone, call. Can't get them on the phone, but right? I am a big believer in the hard no. I am a big believer in, hey, you know what, Jason? You were a great candidate, but we went with somebody internal. I'm a big believer in the hard no. But let me explain. Guys, if you happen to get that no, we went with somebody else. Here's what I want you to remember. The employer didn't say no. They didn't say no. They said, not right now. Do you understand the difference? If you've conducted yourself professionally and you're still looking for work, and it's now been 4 to 6 weeks later, and you still want to work for that company, pick up the phone and give them a call. Remind them who you are and when you met, and ask if, they have any positions available that fit your skill set. Guys, business needs change all the time. In fact, we see pandemic hit and everything, including job search, changed, right? Like video interviewing skills, not a thing. It changed. Everything changes. Business needs change. What if the person they hired didn't work out? What if there's growth and now they need somebody in a similar role? What if you call them and they go, "Oh yeah, Jason, you were great, but we want somebody internal." No, I don't have anything. But you know what? I think that the department down the hall needs somebody in a similar role. Or this happened in staffing and in recruiting all the time, is people would call me back and be like, "Oh yeah, hey Jack, no, sorry, I don't have anything that fits your skill set. But you know what? I met my buddy for happy hour last night. Remember happy hour when we could actually get out and go to happy hour? Wasn't that great? I do virtual happy hours every now and then, but actual happy hours, yeah." So I met my buddy at happy hour. He needs somebody. He was telling me he needs somebody. Can I send your resume to him? You see where I'm going with this, guys? Like, you had a conversation with somebody, like whether it was in person or virtual, you had a conversation with somebody. That is a warm lead. You need to keep it warm. Like, call them up, follow them up. That's one more person that you can, connect with and network with. Your networking attempts, your networking efforts, they should always be forward moving. Always. They should never just die and nothing else happens. Like, again, networking is really you're building the relationship. Like if like you go and talk to somebody and then you never see or talk to them again, that's not building anything. So remember, even though they said not right now, that doesn't mean you can't contact them later. You never know where those conversations are going to lead once you start that networking process. But I will say this, and I believe that the best way to get a new job, a new opportunity, is going to be through networking and talking to people. You guys have that you got your virtual job fair coming up. Connect to the recruiters, as many of them as you can. Follow up with them, right? Especially because, you never know. Again, you never know what's going to happen once you start those conversations. It's just getting those conversations started and then making sure that you maintain following up with them and continuing the actual relationship building. So that is the end of my presentation. I always love call it today. Sounds like an infomercial, but our phone number, if there's anything that we can help you out with, our phone number is 972-437-9950. And that is extension, and I need to get that on the slides. It's extension 340. That is our intake line for, for actually everything in JFS. So I'm going to stop sharing. And what questions can I answer for you guys? Do you guys have any questions?
Feel free to use the reactions button to raise your hand if you want to ask your question out loud, or type it into the chat.
Don't everybody talk at once now. Oh. Also, too, guys, and here is something as well. We were all here together, right? This is a shared experience. I was just talking about networking, right? And I'm going to tell everybody, your next opportunity is going to come from either somebody that you already know or somebody that you're going to meet. It just is. So let's not waste this opportunity. We were all here today. So if everybody wants to, and I'm going to start, there's my LinkedIn. If you are not connected to me and you want to connect with me, I will accept your connection request. I do also recommend that anytime that you make those requests to connect with people, that you send a note, right? Let the people know why it is that you're wanting to connect. Like, if you're connecting to me, you're like, send me a note. Say, hey, Jason, saw you at Dallas Public Library Job Seeker Club. Want to connect? Cool. Right? But if it's Alyssa, you're going to connect to Hugh. It's like, hey, Hugh, we were in the job seeker club together. Let's get connected. Like everybody work on getting connected with everybody, right? Like, because we're all in this together. And you can check out, I mean, you know, I know I know, and by the way, I know this is a video technique, but like, I'm just a huge believer in networking, and there's no reason why we should not, you know, like get connected, see what everybody, go check out everybody's profile page, see what you're about. Like, I don't know. Like Tina, I don't know what you do, but you know, if I'm connected to you and then all of a sudden I see a lead and you're like, you know, that for it's what you do, I'd be more likely to remember you. So anyway, for what it's worth, I think networking is the best. But I will answer any questions that you guys have, whether it's on interviewing or anything else. Thanks, Roselle, for that question. Roselle asks, do you recommend sending a follow-up right after doing a screening call with the recruiter or wait? Great question. You should always send a follow-up email or emails if there's more than one person on that call. It needs to be done by close of business that day. And here's something also too that not a lot of people are doing right now. It was something that was like kind of a common thing back when, you know, pre-pandemic, when the world was actually active and we were out places. And you'll kind of be able to discern during the interview whether or not they are in the office or if they are all working from home. Because if they are in the office, my suggestion is this: you send an email, right, thanking them for their time and expressing your interest in the position. And then you can turn around and drop a thank you note in the mail to them at the office. Again, make sure they're in the office first. Otherwise, it's going to go to their office and probably sit on, you know, the inbox or in their mailbox forever until they finally show up to the office. So if, you know, figure out if they are actually there and in the office. And if they are, you can send a written thank you note. It'll go a long way. So like what'll happen is they'll get your email day of, you'll mail your thank you note, and then about 2 days later, right, it'll show up at their office, and it just is a reminder for them. You know, in any interview situation, you always want to be the one that stands out the most. Like it, and I don't know what everybody's situation is, but like anytime you interview and you didn't get the job, guess what? Well, here's what you need to remember. Couple things. First off, and I know that's never fun, right? Like when you don't get the job, it stings a little right here, doesn't it? But here's what I want everybody to remember is this: right now, because there is so much talent, there are so many people looking for jobs right now. So right now, every single job posting that's out there that you apply to, it's getting anywhere from 150 to 200 people applying to it. Okay. So as you're going through the process, and let's say, unfortunately, you didn't get the job, here's what I want you to remember. Only one person outmarketed you. Just one. And here's the other thing to remember. You beat out 199 other people. Think about that. If job postings are getting 200 people applying, and you didn't get the job, that means you beat out 199 other people. Only one person outmarketed you, just one. That's incredible. That's how awesome you are in this process. That's amazing, because not everybody's going to make it that far into the process. Like usually for interview process, the way recruiters work, just to let you guys know, recruiters will probably go through and get through 25 resumes, and they'll put 10 to 12 in the good pile. And then we'll go back and then we'll actually read them and see if they might be a fit for the job that we're recruiting for. And out of those 10 to 12, that's going to get weeded down to about 8 to 6. And then I'm going to start making phone calls. And out of those phone calls, from those 8 to 6, I'm only going to go with about 3 to bring in. or to do this, to do Zoom, right? And then from there, then second interviews start. But that's how that goes. So it's like, even initially, if you are one of the ones that are in that good pile, like you've still beaten out well over 100 people. So you're doing good. I know that's one of the things, like, I know a lot of times, guys, it doesn't feel like you're like, because you went on the interview and you got another interview and you had another interview and you're like that. I for emphasis, you get beat down. I get it. I understand. But if you can remember next time that you got that not right now from the recruiter, if you could please just remember that you've beaten out 199 other people. I mean, yes, it's still going to kind of suck that you didn't get the job, but if you remember that you were awesome enough to make it as far as you did, you'll feel a lot better.
And that means there's probably still, a better or a just as good opportunity out there.
That's exactly right, Daisy, because I that's the other thing I try and tell my clients is like, look, if you didn't get the job, I'm sorry, it wasn't your job. Your job is your job is out there. Your job, it's out there. You got to go get it. You got to talk to people. You got to hustle. You got to network, but it's out there. The right one will that.
Does anybody else have any other questions that they'd like to put into the chat? Would anybody like to unmute? We have plenty of time.
We do. I actually, I tried to go slow, and it like if I do this presentation, normally it's like way condensed. I try to expand it a little bit and go a little slow, but I also have had a lot of caffeine today. So,
oh, Rosella's asking for any tips for phone interviews.
Yes, actually, that's a great question. And Roselle, I would treat your phone screen just like you would a video interview, because it will be the thing that is going to decide the next whatever the next step in the process is. And what I mean by treat it like it's a real interview, same thing. Like I told you, for a video interview call, right? Dress up like you would go into. Same thing. And I know it's kind of silly because they can't see you, but it's on the phone. But guess what? It's going to put you in that right mindset, and you're going to realize it. And also, too, make sure that you're in a quiet space, right? I cannot tell you as a recruiter how many times I have called candidates and it sounds like the dog is barking right here in the phone while I'm talking. And, finally I just say, hey, what kind of dog do you have? Like, oh, sorry. Like make sure you're in a quiet spot. And be ready to take that call. Have your notes arranged, right? Like something to write with, something to write on. That way, you can take notes and ask questions. Same thing as the interview's kind of phone screen is winding down. Make sure that you have a question to ask, and you need to ask what the next step in the process is. And if they and even if they say, hey, you know what, Roselle, I don't think that you're going to be quite the fit for this position because we need somebody with really advanced Excel skills. And you could be like, okay, well, thank you for letting me know and for your time. And then put it on your calendar for 4 weeks. If you're still looking, call them back. Always call them back. Always follow up. There's no downside to following up ever. I mean, what are they? Unless you are just crazy stalker person calling every single day. No, don't do that. But like, if it's been 4 to 6 weeks and it's still a company you're interested in, call them back. I was on a LinkedIn Live a few months ago, and the person that was presenting told a story about a person she really wanted to work at Amazon, and she called every week at the same time on the same day for a month and a half. And finally the recruiter called back and said, the only reason you're getting this call is because I understand now that you will not stop calling me. And she ended up getting the job. Like, she was that consistent. I mean, she wasn't she wasn't crazy, but and calling every single day at every hour, but like once a week at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, she called and left a voicemail. And she did it for a month and a half, and finally she got the call and she ended up getting the job. So always follow up. Hugh asks suggestions for introverted person on networking. Great question, Hugh. And I have a couple of clients who are introverts. I know not everybody is as we'll say as animated as I am. Okay, I get it. There are a couple of things that I would suggest that you do. One is go to as many live and meetup type events as possible. And just like you asked that question in the chat, I would participate in the chat. If you guys are looking for, those LinkedIn influencer kind of people that have the LinkedIn Live things, you can go follow them. In fact, hang on. I will put a list. Let me find it real quick. Because I just sent this to a client. As a list of people that have LinkedIn Live, and you can go follow these people, and all of them have live events, and you can pop into them and you can be active in the chat. People will get to know you. It's a little bit more easier, I think, than trying or to going to a networking, like we do networking events the second and fourth week of each month. And sometimes people don't want it to be on camera. Sometimes people don't want to ask questions, but it's a lot easier, I think, to communicate via chat. And if you can do that, people kind of get to know you and who you are and kind of what you're about. And then of course you make those connections on LinkedIn and kind of move that process forward. And Roselle asked, headset or no headset? I realize there are pros and cons to both for video interviews. So it's okay to have a headset on. Yeah, it looks kind of weird and kind of clunky, but like, again, this is the world that we live in now. If you have like earbuds or whatever with the microphone like kind of hanging down, that's a little less conspicuous. You just want to make sure that they can hear you and you can hear them. So it's okay. I mean, I don't think well, let me put it another way. If a company is going to pass on you because you wore a headset, you don't want to work at that company. You just don't want to work there. What other questions you guys have? What else can I answer for you? I will answer any questions on job search, interviewing, resumes. Like, we still have time, right, Daisy?
Yeah, we have about 15 minutes left. I was going to follow up when I was listening to the presentation. You were talking about setting up everything, like downloading the whatever you're going to interview on and stuff like that. I was even going to say practice with someone if possible, so you can not only like get familiar with using the program, but seeing someone else on the screen and what does your background look like, and like, oh well, actually the lighting at this time of day is really good if I sit in front of the window versus like the overhead lighting in this room isn't going to work. I think kind of getting that kind of stuff out of the way early, because sometimes you sit down and it's like a few minutes before and you're just like, oh no, they just started doing construction across the street, or my neighbor's mowing their lawn, so or like setting up if you have like a wireless mic or anything like that. Or I have a Mac at home, and when I try to use my plugin, like my headset, it doesn't always set up right depending on what program I'm using. So it takes extra time to set it up. So there's like all kinds of little things you don't really think about until you're like in that moment.
That's an excellent point, Daisy, and it goes back to just part of preparation for the interview
Mhm.
and the call, your video call. Like I was on a, I was I and thank you for getting me out of that training early, Daisy. I appreciate it. We had a training, a mandatory training we had to do that from like 12 to 1. Daisy's like, hey, be here at 12:45. I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. But like, and I actually did this because I sat down and then was logged onto the call, and then I noticed, and I told you guys I'm in my dining room. If I move a little bit too far over here, you can see there's a chair there. I'm usually sitting in front of the chair. You can't see anything behind me, but it was kind of askew. I actually stopped my video, got up, walked around, moved the chair, sat back down. I'm like, is this looking good? Because I got to present in a minute. Yeah, I'm looking. Okay, cool. Right. Same thing. I forgot to open my blinds a minute ago before and had to stop it. And they probably thought I was not paying any attention at all to the training that I was on because I kept turning off my video and staging everything for the call. Right. I do the same thing when I do a presentation. I'm on it 10 minutes before so that I know the lighting's good. My cat's not up here on the table, like, all the things.
Like Alyssa has a question.
So Alyssa says, I've been told to leave my last job status as current on LinkedIn because you're less likely to be interviewed if it appears you've been out of work for any length of time. Is that correct? Or is it better to say something like looking for work or open to consulting and indicate you're not an active employee? That's a great question. The answer is the answer is a little complex depending on what it is that you're trying to actually achieve. And I will explain. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Still, even though we're in a pandemic, employers are always going to want to hire people that are currently employed. It's just how it is, even during the pandemic. Now, that being said, I always think that it is good to be honest, and on your settings on your LinkedIn, you can change your settings, and I don't really recommend, and this is going to help you out for this bit, Alyssa. I don't recommend that you do the open to work for everybody where you got that little green circle around you. And here's the reason why I don't recommend it. First off, it's not really needed. It's kind of an extra thing, kind of a it's an extra thing that's a visual thing that LinkedIn thought was interesting. But guys, here's the thing. And when recruiters log into LinkedIn, they don't see what we see. They're in a separate portal. They're in a recruiter portal. All right. So when they run a search in there, you're going to come up in the search, provided you have the keywords and the things that they're looking for. So whether you have the green, ONO around your profile picture or not, doesn't really matter. You're still going to come up in the search. So when you set up your settings on your LinkedIn, I would set it up so that it's recruiter only. The other part of your question was, is it better to say something like you're looking for work? I always think it's great to let everybody know that you're looking for work, but I don't think that's where you should put that. That doesn't go in your headline. Okay. That goes into your about section. Does everybody know what I mean when I say headline? Like those are the words like right under your fact. Let me see. Is my LinkedIn up? Yeah. Here, I'll show you. This is why I love Zoom. We can just do this real time. Okay, everybody, can y'all see my LinkedIn? Yes, Daisy? You're the only one I can see, so you're the only one okay.
Yes,
so,
we can see it.
So right here, so this is what I'm talking about right here, this bit right here. This is your headline. And I would not use, hey, I'm looking for work in your headline. You can see so I prefer this right here. So the formula goes, I help blank solve blank by blank. In my case, I help job seekers get noticed by customizing a plan to meet their career goals, right? And then I also left in what my current title here at Jewish Family Service, one of the reasons being I want brand. I want to build brand, not only for me and my personal brand, but for the company. I want it tied back to the company. So I want for everybody that was on this call to say, "There's a man, Jason was awesome, and he had some great tips today. I wonder what else JFS does." See? So that's where that goes, is on your headline. I would not use anything in there for like that's why you're looking for work. I would put it down here in your about section. And guys, I would write your about section, how I write that, as if you were having lunch with a coworker for the very first time, right? How'd you get into your position? That's how I'd write your about section. And then of course, in your case, if you're looking for work, that's where you'd mention that is down here at the bottom. It's like, I'm currently searching for XYZ kind of things, right? Oh, and also too, your phone and email down here at the bottom of your about section. Make it easy for the recruiter to find you. If they have to scroll up and click this, by the way, make sure that your phone and your email are in here. It does no good to click contact information. The only thing is your URL, right? So get your contact information in there, but make it easy for them. If they have to scroll back up here and click this, that's not easy. And if it's right here in your about section, it's a lot easier for them to find. So yeah, I would not put that in that section. By the way, I am working on, it'll be soon, probably next month, I will be doing I have two webinars. I have LinkedIn for beginners, like I don't even know how to create a page. And then I have an advanced LinkedIn. So that's coming up soon. I'm working on it.
Those were some great tips. I actually changed my headline after a job club program because I really didn't. I always had the hardest time with the headline, and finally, I think I forgot what program I attended, but they were just kind of like easy to remember, kind of like catchphrases. And I was like, well, what do? I do library programming and I do community engagement. So that's what my headline says.
That's the other way to do it, is to put different job titles or things that you do within there, whether it's community engagement and and you could just separate it by that line.
Yeah.
That's also a good way to do it, just because it helps with keywords when they look for things.
LinkedIn's really, really interesting. I think it takes a little bit of learning, but the more you're on there and you kind of interact and kind of figure out some of the kind of how it works, I think it makes it easier. And I think also if you're I know I'm an introvert, and so being online is sometimes it's a bit of a challenge, but when you're online, you have a little bit more time to think about like what you're going to say or how you're going to say it. And online networking, especially if it's through like message or emails, you have a little bit more time. Nobody expects you to be like emailing and replying or responding instantly. So that kind of like gives you a little bit of less pressure.
What's funny is like that's absolutely true, because what's funny is like for me, like you guys can ask me questions and I could just talk to you all day, but if I have to sit and actually write out something to you, like it's a struggle for me. Like I have to get up and walk around and like, did I say that right? I'm looking like, I don't think I didn't. Is that my meaning correct? Like, and by the way, I went to school for English, a bachelor's in English with an emphasis on creative writing. Okay, so you would think like that would be easy for me to do. No, like writing the thing is hard for me. So I'm right there with you on that one for sure.
All right. Well, I'm gonna ask for any last questions or comments. Does anybody need any tips or suggestions for online interviews or anything not necessarily about video interviewing that they wanted to ask today? I will leave the link to the JFS website in the chat. And then next week, do we have any job program next week? You think I would know. I do these all the time. But we do have a virtual job fair coming up. We do have 2 professional development series. One is about soft skills, and our next session is about adaptability. And then we also have a financial series going on. So the next program is about retirement planning with Wings of Dallas. And then I can send information about that in the follow-up email. It looks like nobody else has any last questions. Jason, thank you so much for presenting today.
Daisy, thank you guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I always love to present. It's my favorite thing to do, actually. So I was happy to be able to come back and present here today.
Yeah, and thank you everybody who sent in their comments and their questions. Hopefully you got some good information today, some helpful tips. I think that's going to be it for today's meeting. I'm going to let everybody go to enjoy the rest of their afternoon. Thank you everybody so much for joining us.
Bye.